the NVIDIA Geforce GTX 550 Ti, a mid-range graphics card which was a favorite among gamers in the year 2011. But how well does the GTX 550 Ti keep up 6 years later in 2017? Well, let's find out. So the GTX 550 Ti I have here is from a brand called Zotac. It comes with 192 CUDA cores and it is clocked at 900 MHz. Now do keep in mind that the 550 Ti does not come with NVIDIA GPU boost, unlike its distant successor, the 1050 Ti, which has 768 CUDA cores and it is clocked at 1290 MHz with a boost clock of 1392 MHz. So if you're planning to upgrade from a 550 Ti, the 1050 Ti is a perfect choice. The 550 Ti is also equipped with 1GB of GDDR5 video memory, which by today's standards is too low and outdated. Meanwhile, the 1050 Ti comes with 4GB of GDDR video memory as a standard. Now as you can see, I did clean out all the dust from the 550 Ti in order to prevent any thermal throttling, but the card wasn't really that dirty to begin with, so we are good to go. Alright, the computer we're going to run the 550 Ti has a Core i7-3770 running at stock speeds with 16GB of RAM, and I also use the MSI Afterburner to slightly overclock the card to get a little extra performance. And just so you know, all the games will run in 1080p with GeForce Experience optimization in place for best performance. Alright, so the first game we are running is Rise of the Tomb Raider. This is running in 720p at lowest settings because in 1080p the game was totally unplayable. The game is quite GPU intensive. Even at 720p lowest settings possible, the frame rate frequently dips below 30 and that spoils all the fun. But hey, at least the game works. So next I ran Battlefield 1 and this game runs surprisingly well on the 550 Ti even in 1080p. Now the graphics quality was again set to the lowest and the average FPS I got was somewhere around 38, and only once it dipped below 25 when there was a lot of action. Now visually, even at lowest quality settings, Battlefield 1 looks a lot better than Rise of the Tomb Raider. However, if you want to play in multiplayer, I do recommend that you lower the resolution down to 720p in order to raise the lowest FPS from 25 to at least 30. So the first game I'm running is Dota 2. This is running in 1080p, but I tweaked the video settings a little to my liking as the performance was quite good. With these medium to high settings in 1080p, the game averages around 70 FPS with a minimum of 48 FPS when there's a lot of action. Turn the video settings up to ultra and the card still holds up, but the frame rate dips down to 30 when there's a lot of action, and some players might not be comfortable with 30 FPS as 60 FPS should be the norm for a high-paced video game like Dota 2. Moving on to a more recent title, Doom was pushing the 550 Ti to its limits. In 1080p lowest settings possible, the game was averaging around 34 FPS, and whenever there was some action, the frame rate quickly dipped below 20 FPS. For the most part, I would say the game is playable in lower settings, but you will not enjoy it because textures appear blurry and there are jag lines because the card does not have enough juice for anti-aliasing. Things weren't so hunky-dory even at 720p with the average frame rate being around 39, but whenever there was action it still dips below to 23 FPS. But hey, does the 550 Ti run Doom? Yes it does. Tomb Raider 2013 works great in high to ultra settings. I ran the inbuilt benchmark tool and got an average FPS about 43, which is pretty decent, but do make sure to keep the Stress FX setting turned off else the game becomes unplayable even at 720p. Next, I ran FarCry 4 at 1080p with the details turned all the way down, and unfortunately, it was not playable. The game was averaging around 29 FPS, and occasionally, the frame rates would dip all the way down to 20 FPS as soon as there was some action. However, turning the resolution down to 720p helps a lot, and the averages improved to 47 FPS, with the frame rate rarely going down below 41 FPS. So yes, the GTX 550 Ti is able to play Far Cry 4 but at lowest settings and at 720p. I ran Bioshock Infinite at 1080p medium settings, and I used the inbuilt benchmarking tool to get an idea on how the game performs, and we get an average FPS about 45, maximum FPS of about 64, and a minimum FPS of about 32. And yes, I have played Bioshock Infinite with a GTX 550 Ti and it works fine. But if you want a better experience, I suggest that you turn the quality down to low so that you get a better minimum FPS. Alright guys, so that concludes this video, and I hope this video gives you an idea on how the GTX 550 Ti performs with modern games. So thank you guys for watching, and do stay tuned for more videos like these, and I'll see you guys next time.